Hello, in this tutorial I want to just give an overview of the mojoPortal source code. In a previous brief tutorial we showed how to check out the code from Subversion, our SVN trunk repository, and so this is what we're looking at now. Everything is, all the files have come down. You know, it's a lot of folders. Projects are organized into folders. Looking in the root folder, there's a number of solution files. These MDS, that's for mono-develop. This is the main solution file. Some of you, probably most of you, are only going to want to work with Microsoft SQL Server, so you can leave out some projects by using this one. For the moment, I'm going to double-click the main one because I want to talk about how you can change the data layer reference if you want to use a database other than Microsoft SQL Server. So basically on the right here we have Solution Explorer. You should get to know Solution Explorer if you're working with Visual Studio. That's kind of the main navigation tool. I'm just going to collapse down a lot of these projects so we can see a little more clearly. Now the main project is mojoPortal.web. That's the main web user interface project. Then we have the business layer, and then we have the various data layers, and then we have the features split out of the core project. So the core project is very minimal. It only has the HTML feature. All the other stuff is optional. You could conceivably leave that stuff out if you wanted to only build custom features and use mojoPortal just as a framework for your custom features. You could do that. But typically you're probably going to want to use all the features. So let's talk about real quickly how does it know whether to use Microsoft SQL Server or Firebird or MySQL or PGSQL or SQLite? Well, it's basically by the references. In the business layer, we currently refer to the Microsoft SQL Server data layer, and that's how I always check it into the repository, is pre-configured for Microsoft SQL Server. If you ever find it otherwise in SVN trunk, it means I've made a mistake. Now, although these projects have different names, the data layer projects, they actually all compile into a DLL with the same name. If we view the properties on the project, you'll see this is what the assembly name generated is mojoPortal.data.dll, and that's true of all the different data layers. They produce the same name and they have the same methods. So it's really just a matter of which DLL was in the bin folder, because ultimately when you build it, everything lands in the bin, all the DLLs. So basically they just implement the same methods and they compile into the same DLL name, and it doesn't matter which one is in there. They should all be for the same version. So for instance, you know, if I wanted to switch to MySQL, I'd have to change it in the main business project, in the features business project, and also in the web store business project. And so that's what I do when I produce packages for different databases. To produce, you know, the Firebird package, I set the references to Firebird, and I compile it and I deploy it with Unleash It, which we'll talk about in another video. So we're going to go now and move back to the Microsoft SQL Server solution, because it has fewer files, fewer projects, and if you don't need the extra projects, if you're only going to be working with Microsoft SQL Server, then you might as well not have those other projects in there. It'll make the solution load faster and that sort of thing. So we're going to use this one. And later we'll talk about if you're going to make a custom solution and add your own projects, that's probably the one you want to use too, unless you're going to support other databases. Now, we'll open that up. We're going to go back to the file system real quickly here, and I want to show you that under the web folder we have a user.config.sample file that we want to open this with a text editor, and then we want to save it as user.config. And then we can put our connection string here for our database. I'm using SQL Express, so I have a named instance named SQL Express. I'm going to go ahead and create a database real quickly in SQL Server Management Studio. And I'm just going to call this tutorial 1. And then what we'll do is we'll take an existing user that I've got in here, mojo user, and we'll map him to that database as the DB owner. Hopefully I remember his password, but I'll go ahead and change it so that I know exactly what it is. And we'll make the default, well, we'll make the default database that as well. So here, tutorial 1, it's the name of the database. Mojo user, I believe, was the guy we did, yep, and his password. It's mojo123. So the user.config is not under source control, and the benefit of that is now you don't lose your connection string, because periodically you're going to want to do svn update to get the latest code. Now that you've got it checked out, you just do svn update, and you can pull down my changes. You can also subscribe to commit notification emails, so you can know what I'm working on, and you can see when my commits land in trunk, and you can pull down the new code. So real quickly now, the next thing to do to get this thing working is to build the entire solution. A lot of people make the mistake, they just launch the web project, and that will work, but then you'll only have that one HTML feature. And the reason is because we have post-build events that copy these files up to the web project. So when I rebuild the solution, it compiles all the projects, and the post-build event then copies the needed files where they need to go in the web project. So the DLLs compiled from the features UI end up landing in the bin folder, and other folders get copied here that have the .aspx and .ascx files. And we'll see that as soon as it completes building, showing the build progress right here. See how long we've been running here. Okay, so what we want to do here now is go show, click on the mojoPortal web project and then choose show all files. And then you will see, oh goodness, it's expanding everything out here, which we really don't want. You'll see that we get, the whited out folders are not part of the project, but they were copied by the post build event. You can see the DLLs are all in here now. These are XML files that I was expecting that aren't there. I'll save that for another topic. But now you can actually click play, launch the debugger, and since this is configured as the default startup project, it launches mojoPortal.web. Bring my browser back over here. And it redirects to the setup page because initially errors will happen because there's no tables in the database. And so it just detects that on the first error and redirects to the setup page, and it runs all the scripts, and now the site is operational. And I'm going to cut this video off right here so that we can fit it on YouTube, and I will see you again in another clip.